Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my first impressions look on the Serious Player Only Player One Plus. So they actually listen to us, right? So of course, this is Serious Player Only. They're a new shoe company. They make some amazing performers like the Serious Player Only Player One, right? But this is the 2023 version, and there was the older versions as well. But yeah, they actually listen to us, the consumers and also the reviewers, and they actually upgrade their shoes, which is really dope. So this is the Player One Plus, and they made some adjustments. They made some actual upgrades to the shoe. So if you guys do want to cop, I try to leave the free link in the description box. It's actually going for 180 bucks. It's the same, pretty much the same price as the Player One 2023 version. The older one, like the very first model, was 158 bucks, or basically 160 bucks. So they increased the price by a little bit, which kind of sucks. But also another thing that's really good about the shoe is they have their drop-in midsoles available for purchase, right? So every other shoe that says replaceable midsole, right, you can't really buy the drop-in midsoles, right? And drop-in midsoles, they tend to kind of bottom out pretty quickly because your foot is right on top of foam. So if you guys do want to extend the life of your shoe and just want to, because maybe like the cushion is not as good as it first was, then you can just buy a new drop-in midsole for like 40-50 bucks, which is pretty damn cool, right? But anyways, let's get it started right off with the tracciones. So here in the Player One Plus, they actually made it a lot better because the regular Player One, of course, this was a traction pattern, right? And it was really good. It was top tier traction. They had amazing bites. You were biting through dust very well too. Just really good traction, like top tier traction, right? Just like the Kobe's. But the rubber was super duper soft, right? The grooves are very thin. You have little nubbies as well. It's basically kind of like a Hamon traction pattern with nubs in between the grooves, right? But here in the Player One Plus, they made it way better, right? So they're saying this is inspired by a tire, which I guess I can kind of see it. It just looks like a zigzag line going through the entire outsole, which is a very simple kind of pattern, right? But the grooves are way thicker. The rubber is way harder as well, which is pretty interesting because, with the Player One, the grooves were super thin. It was kind of malleable. So when you were moving, the rubber kind of moved with the movement of your foot, right? So giving you better traction, right? But this is just really hard, right? So obviously it would be very good for durability, way better than the original Player One, right? But also the traction seems freaking amazing, guys. Just trying it on my wood floors right now has an amazing freaking bite, which I like. And it has a nice loud high-pitched squeak, just like the Player One. Of course, we'll have to see on performance on dust, but I mean, the rubber compound seems really good, and also the grooves, they're obviously not super close together, so it doesn't seem like it's gonna trap dust or anything like that. So the traction is definitely 100% improved in the durability department. Obviously, I'm gonna need to play in it and see how it performs on a dusty setting. It still seems like it has a really good bite on a clean court, however. So yeah, that definitely is an upgrade, and that's really dope that they listened to us, because a lot of us said, because the rubber is so damn soft, if you're gonna be playing on outdoor court, it's probably not the best for durability. So that's really dope. And now moving on to the heel to toe transition, it's pretty much the same as the original Player One, also the same as the Kobe 11s and like the Kobe 9s, right? So as you guys can see, all of these, the Kobe's, they have a drop-in midsole. So here in the heel, it's basically just rubber, right? So it's kind of boot-like. It's kind of stiff in the heel. Same thing with the Kobe 11. Same thing with the original Player One, and also the same thing with the Player One Plus. So it's a little hard, it's a little stiff, not a huge deal, right? It's just, for example, like a shoe that has very soft foam, right? Like in the Tatum One, it's a lot softer. You know what I mean? Because there's actual compression here from the actual midsole in the heel. But either way, that's just me nitpicking. It's just a little clunky here in the heel, but you have a nice kind of rounded or curved shape, so it's not terrible. And then here in the forefoot, we have a crazy curved shape and a lot of flex here in the forefoot, which I do like. I like to have a very flexible feel in my hoop shoes just because it makes the overall shoe and experience feel a little bit smoother when I'm playing basketball, right? Same thing here in the Player One, right? Super duper flexible. Same thing here in the Kobe 8s. right? Super flexible. Same thing here in the Kobe 11s, right? So yeah, and also we have a carbon fiber midfoot chain plate, which gives us very good torsional support, right? Doesn't bend at all here in the midfoot. Same thing here in the original Player 1, right? But I guess they don't have this little cutout anymore here in the Player 1 Plus. And now moving on to the cushioning setup. The cushioning setup is exactly the same, right? So we have a drop-in midsole, but the Player 1 Plus actually comes with 2 drop-in midsoles, which is actually pretty cool. So we have the original one, right, with kind of like, it looks like Boost, right? It's a soft foam, it's bottom loaded, and we have these targeted foams as well with this blue part, right? So you have it here in the forefoot, you have it here in the heel, giving you better impact protection. And honestly, it's better than the Kobe's. You just Lunarlon in the Kobe's, it wasn't very good once you bottomed it out, right? But also we have just a regular foam without any of this. It's a little bit more kind of responsive is what they're saying. And honestly, it wasn't like super soft and super mushy for this cushion, so I don't know why they had to make that, but I guess if you really want to pick and choose what type of cushion you want and you want a little bit more responsiveness, they give you an extra drop-in midsole with the Player 1 Plus, which I think is really, really dope. Again, extending the life of the shoe, right? Because if this bottoms out, you can put in a new drop-in midsole, right? But also, I love drop-in midsoles because of the foam, right? Your foot is right on top of the foam. It's actually pretty soft, and also we have these little nubs giving you better grip on your foot and on your sock. So that kind of improves lockdown as well. And we have better lateral support because we have this raised sidewall here on the drop-in midsole as well. So yeah, it's pretty much the exact same as the original Player 1. Which of course is a good thing. And now moving on to the material. So the material is a little bit different, right? So in the original Player 1, it's kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of Leno Weave, right? And it looks like it's just plastic and you have some kind of like strings going across it, right? And then of course we have the cords going across the entire material, right? Here on the lateral side, here on the medial side, and also in the toe box you can see these yellow strings or cords, right? But here in the Player 1 Plus, it looks a little bit more like a screen mesh, and it's like a plastic screen mesh. There seems to be a little bit more overlays or underlays as well. And of course we have these cords or strings going across the material for better support and also better durability, right? But honestly, it feels really similar. They're both extremely thin materials that conform to your foot very well. It's super minimal feeling, right? And here in the toe box, like, it's really hard to tell the difference. Yeah, they both feel very, very similar. They are saying the Player 1 Plus is going to be a little bit more durable, which I don't know if that's the case because they both feel pretty similar in hand, right? But for the Player 1 Plus, we have these kind of like underlaying materials. You see these red parts here on the lateral side and also on the medial side. So that'll help a little bit for, I guess, durability as well. And I guess adding to a little bit more lockdown, but it'll definitely help for durability because you're putting a lot of force when you're doing lateral movements. So that'll definitely help for durability. And then for the tongue is pretty much the exact same. And also the lining material in the tongue and also here in the ankle area is exactly the same as well. It's like this really soft felt material, right? It's also a half booty construction tongue for both of the shoes. And then in the ankle area, it's pretty much the exact same as well as far as the padding goes. It's like average, you know? So yeah. It doesn't seem like the material changed all too much. I guess the actual material composition is a little bit different, but it feels really, really similar on foot. But one thing that they did change though is the laces, right? So you guys can see the eyelets. The first eyelet comes a little bit more here into the toe box area. So you can customize the fit and tighten the toe box a little bit more than the Player 1, like the original one, right? As you guys can see, the Player 1 Plus comes down a little bit more into the tip of the toe, which is nice. But it wasn't anything terrible in the Player 1 because it was still pretty snug for me in the toe box right here, right? So I didn't really need that, but it is pretty nice if you want to customize the fit a little bit more in the toe box, right? Which is pretty cool. And now moving on to the fit. So the Player 1 fits really, really, really short, right? So I had to go up a full size here in the Player 1. And same thing with the Player 1 Plus. I got a full size and a half up and it fits me very, very well, which is weird. So it fits me exactly the same as the Player 1, right? And look, it's pretty much the same exact size. So yeah, for the Player 1 Plus, I was just going up a full size and a half because that's what I did. and it fits me well, which is weird. I think they need to fix their sizing. But once I did that, it fits me very well. It has a very snug fit as well, which I do like. And also, like I said, the tiny bit more that you can tighten here in the toe box feels a little bit nicer as well. And as far as the support and lockdown goes, it feels like it's gonna be good here in the Player One Plus. As you guys can see, they added a little bit more plastic right here on the lateral side, as opposed to the Player One where there's just a rubber coming up, right? But I didn't really have any issues with lateral containment in the Player One, so I guess they added that for a little bit more lateral containment and a little bit more support. But they didn't really need to do that, right? But the material is super supportive, and like I said, the drop-in midsole has that lateral counter coming up, and we have this external heel counter. Of course, just like in the Kobe 8s, it's inspired by the Kobe, so that pretty much stayed the same as well. And now moving on to the weight of the shoe, I'm actually pretty curious. They feel around the same, honestly. So the Player One is 12.45 ounces, and then the Player One Plus is 12.4 ounces. So pretty much the exact same weight. That's like average weight. So yeah, I mean, honestly, when I have both of these shoes on, it's pretty hard to tell the difference. You know what I mean? And aesthetically, honestly, I feel like I like the original one better. Like, especially this color. This color is super duper sick. And also the toe box, it just looks a little bit better in my personal opinion. Having this part a little bit more open, right? So tell us what you guys think looks better down in the comment section below. So I love how Serious Player Only is listening to feedback and they're actually improving their shoes. You know what I mean? It kind of sucks that they're increasing the price as well, but they're improving the shoes and listening to feedback, which I think is amazing, just because they're a smaller company. You know what I mean? But yeah, it definitely feels like an upgrade, right? It feels very, very similar to the original Player One, but like I said, slight upgrade. Better durability for the outsole, you get 2 drop-in midsoles as well, and you have a little bit more customization for the fit here in the toe box. But everything else is pretty damn similar, which of course is not a bad thing because the original Player One was such a great performer, right? But anyways, that about concludes my first impressions look on the Player One Plus. Again, if you guys don't want to cop either of these shoes, I'll try to leave the link in the description box, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.